This video contains a 3-step playbook I wish I had when I got started with wedding photography and videography. Hey guys, my name's Jono. I'm a photographer filmmaker based in Sydney, Australia. We've been getting a lot of questions recently from our community around how we actually got started with wedding photography and videography. My best friend Jason and I have been photographing and filming weddings since 2020, and so we thought that we'd create this video to kind of document the exact steps that we took to break into the industry when we were complete beginners. Having been in your position a few years ago, we know that getting started is the toughest bit. You have no skills, no portfolio, and no track record. So hopefully this video will give you guys some good insights if you're starting from zero, and will give you guys some sort of action plan that you can follow. Chapter 1, developing the skill set. In terms of the skills that you need to get started, I'd really categorize this down into 3 main buckets. Number 1, camera skills. Number 2, equipment knowledge. And number 3, your interpersonal skills, or also known as your people skills. So let's cover off the first one, which is camera skills. This includes things such as being really familiar with your camera settings and having good composition. Knowing your camera settings back to front is particularly important when it comes to weddings because you're trying to capture fleeting moments that are only happening once. So if you're fumbling around with your camera, trying to figure out if you're on the correct settings, you're gonna miss really important moments. Oh, no! No! If you want to learn more about how to actually master your camera settings, we've made a separate video on that topic, which I'll link in the description box down below. Number 2 is equipment knowledge. Notice how I said equipment knowledge rather than just equipment, because you actually don't need to buy all the equipment that you need to do a good job. You just need to know what you need and actually how to use it. In terms of the bare minimum list of equipment that you need to become familiar with, for wedding photography, it's pretty basic. You really just need to know how to use a camera really well, and also a flash for when it gets dark. For wedding videography, you'll need to obviously know how to use a camera, how to use audio recording devices to record good quality audio. I'd say tripods, continuous lights to light up dark spaces like the dance floor, and potentially a drone, although that's not always a necessity. When it comes to wedding photography and videography, gear does actually matter because better quality equipment will allow you to produce high quality work, especially when it comes to things like your camera body and your lenses. But as I mentioned earlier, you don't actually need to buy all these things before shooting your first wedding. What you do need is to develop the knowledge to know what pieces of gear you need to actually be able to do a good job and actually how to use that equipment. For example, the first couple of weddings that we actually photographed and filmed, we didn't actually have all the equipment we needed. And instead of paying $4,000 to buy the equipment out front, we just rented it for a weekend for about $300. Once we were able to build a portfolio and start booking a few paid weddings, we were then able to use that money to then buy the gear outright. So just remember, the gear doesn't actually have to hold you back from getting started in the industry. You just really need to actually develop the knowledge to know actually what you need and how to use it. And the third skill, interpersonal skills, which I would say is probably the most important one. This area of work involves working with people on one of the most important days of their lives. So you need to develop the ability to connect with your couples, make them feel relaxed, and make sure that they have fun on their wedding day. People might not remember what you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. So our journey started in June 2019 when I shot my first wedding for free, and that was for a good friend of mine from primary school who was getting married at the time and didn't have the money to hire a wedding videographer. That was essentially my first ever video gig. At that point, I had no experience, I didn't know how to use a camera, and I didn't even own a camera. So for that wedding, I actually borrowed Jason's Canon 1300D camera and a $50 nifty 50 lens to film the entire wedding. But that experience really provided me with 2 main things. Number 1 is it built my camera skills extremely quickly. I went from a week before the wedding not knowing anything about ISO, aperture, shutter speed, to then after the wedding actually feeling pretty familiar with all my camera settings. And then the second skill set that I really learned from that first experience was the importance of interpersonal skills. Knowing how to use a camera and get shots is one thing, but the more important thing is actually how you make people feel on the day and how you interact with them, you joke with them and make them feel relaxed. One thing that we personally did was watch a lot of job shadow videos on YouTube so that we could see how other more professional filmmakers and photographers interacted with people on the day and just generally how they operated on a wedding day. Step 2 is to now actually build a body of work that reflects what you're capable of, or otherwise known as your portfolio. This is perhaps the most important step when you're trying to get started with wedding photography and videography. Your portfolio will set the standard of your work and your style. It's going to be your main sales tool and determine whether couples are willing to fork out thousands of dollars for your services. And so here is a step-by-step guide on how we actually built our initial portfolio when we got started in the wedding photography and videography industry. Step 1 was to do practice shoots for friends. During the period between July 2019 to about June 2020, we were doing a lot of corporate work during this period of time to continue developing our craft, learning how to interact and communicate with people on shoots, and also reinvesting the money we made into better quality equipment. During that period of time, we were also organizing a lot of free couple shoots for our friends and family. We would ask them, hey, we're trying to get more experience working with couples to get ready to enter into the wedding photography, videography industry. Do you mind taking some time out of your weekend to come to a nice location with us so that we can get some nice photos and videos of you guys? From doing a few of those shoots for our friends, we were then able to build a body of work that we could showcase to couples who are getting married. Step 2 is to lock in 3 weddings for free or a discounted rate. So at the same time, when we were doing all these couple shoots for our friends and family, we were also telling them and anyone else in our network whether they knew someone who was getting married soon. So what we would tell them is that we're looking to get into the wedding photography and videography industry. So if anyone's getting married soon and is looking for a photographer or videographer, we're willing to do it for free or a discounted rate so that we could build our portfolio. Just from asking people within our friends and family network, we were able to then actually book 2 wedding gigs. The first one was in August 2020, and that one was for my mum's best friend's daughter who was getting married, and they didn't have the budget to hire a wedding videographer. And so we did video for that wedding because they already had a wedding photographer. The second one was in October 2020 for a couple who had actually got our contact from, get this, Jason's friend's sister. That just really shows that opportunities can just pop up anywhere. And if you don't ask, you don't receive. So it's really important to actually kind of convey your intentions to anyone in your network because you never know who they know. And the third wedding that we shot in November 2020 came from an inquiry from our Instagram page for our corporate work. When they inquired, we just told them, hey, we're actually looking to get into the wedding photography, videography industry. We're actually happy to film your wedding for free in exchange for being able to use it for our portfolio. And the couple were more than happy with the arrangement. So once you've locked in your first 3 weddings that you're going to be able to use to build your portfolio, step 3 is to actually set your style from the very beginning. Pick 2 to 3 established wedding photographers and filmmakers who you really look up to and just mirror their style from the very beginning. You're essentially adopting the method that has already proved successful in the past. Once you've kind of got your start and become more established, you can then start tailoring your approach and coming up with your own unique style. For us, when we first started as complete beginners, we mainly mirrored our style off 3 main photographers, filmmakers. So for photography, it was Chris Turner, who is a New Zealand-based photographer, and Eric Floberg, who's based in Chicago. For videos, it was mainly White and Rivery. We binged their YouTube videos, consumed any educational content that they put out, bought their presets and LUTs so that our photos and videos looked similar to their style, and also if they had any online courses, we also bought those as well. By the end of 2020, after we had shot those 3 weddings, we already had a portfolio of 3 weddings with a very coherent style. This is really important because when brides are looking to book a wedding photographer or a videographer, the most common question we get is, what is your style? And so by having a portfolio with a coherent style from the very beginning will really set you up for success. Chapter 3 is promoting your work. Alex Hormozy actually gives a really great summary on this, and he basically says there's 4 main ways that you can promote a product or service yourself. Number 1 is to reach out to people who you know. Number 2 is to create content on the stuff that you do. Number 3 is to reach out to people that you don't know. And number 4 is to run paid ads. And so when we were first getting started with wedding photography and videography, we mainly focused on the first 2 methods. And so firstly, this involved reaching out to people that we knew. As I mentioned earlier, when we were looking to build our portfolio, we asked all our friends and family whether they knew someone who was getting married soon and was looking for a wedding photographer and videographer. From doing that exercise, we were able to actually book our first 2 weddings that allowed us to build our portfolio. The second method of promotion that we focused on was making content. So after shooting the first 3 weddings in the second half of 2020, we then asked each of those 3 couples for a testimonial. We then collated all the testimonials, the photos that we took from the weddings, and also the videos to create a website called rzweddings.com. we added a contact page on the website so that people could then start submitting inquiries for wedding photography and videography services. We then started an Instagram page and started uploading photos and videos from the first 3 weddings that we had shot in the second half of 2020, along with all the photos and videos we had done previously from all the couple shoots we did for family and friends. For each post, we'll then add relevant hashtags such as hashtag Sydney wedding photographer or hashtag Sydney wedding videographer, so that when couples are on Instagram and they're searching up wedding photographer in Sydney or a wedding videographer in Sydney, they would type in the hashtag, come across our post, look at our page, and if they liked our work, they would go onto our website and submit an inquiry. This is actually how we booked our first 2 fully paid weddings by the end of November 2020, which was only a few weeks after we had created the website. We charged an initial price of $3,000 for both photos and videos, which is quite low compared to industry standards, but at that point in time, as technically still beginners, we were just mind blown with that amount of money. By the end of January 2021, we managed to book 3 more weddings using this exact same method, and this was all based on the portfolio of the 3 weddings that we had shot in late 2020. As we filmed and photographed more weddings over time, we were then able to keep building our social media presence, and that led to more and more bookings. Now it's 2 years later in 2023, and this year we've booked 30 weddings for a total revenue of close to about $150,000. So as you guys can see, it takes substantial time and effort to get the ball rolling, but once you do, it's worth it. But if you're willing to put in the work, put some love into the process and really enjoy the journey, it can lead to something really special. Finally, a bonus tip that I want to leave you guys with that will really set you guys up for success in this industry is just to focus on serving your couples. In this industry, it's very easy to get carried away with the fancy dresses, the extravagant venues, and the income potential. But at the end of the day, a wedding day is really just the love story between 2 people tying the knot in front of their closest family and friends. And so focus on building strong relationships with your couples. Really get to know them and their friends and family. Go above and beyond to serve your couples and make sure that their wedding day is going to be a day that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. I'll give you guys a really good example of this from a wedding that we had shot a few months ago. The bride had actually written a letter to her dad on the day that she had left on the dining table. She didn't tell us about this letter at all, but we saw it just sitting there on the table, and so I asked the bride, who's this letter for? And she said it was a letter that she had written to her dad. And so what we actually did was organize her parents to sit by the window and actually read it out in front of her.
The park?
To the man who stepped up, the one who made the choice to love another person's child as their own, the one who stepped up to provide, to protect and encourage and love a small girl. You may not have given me the gift of life or been the first to hold my hand, but you've given me the gift of you and your entire heart. There are not enough words to describe the gratitude I have for you. I wish in this life I did not take so many moments for granted, but I cannot take time back. All I can do is take every lesson you have taught me and practice them every single day. That I love you to the moon and back, your little girl.
I love you too.
Always. Always. And ever grateful.
Thank you very much.
And so that's what I mean by over-delivering for your couples, to make sure that you create a memory that's going to last them for a lifetime. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you found this video valuable, make sure you give it a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell button if you want to get notified of our weekly videos. We also have an email newsletter, link in the description box down below that you can sign up to. If you have any questions, feel free to just always email us at jonoandjason@gmail.com. And with that, guys, that's it from me. I will see you in the next video.